I just want to go back and talk about the fact that right now, a number of people are self-isolating, social distancing, and this is going to become the norm because this isn't going away anytime soon. This is going to be happening for, they were saying, probably a year, maybe 18 months until there's some sort of a vaccine. In Toronto right now, everything, every event, everything has been postponed till after June 30th. And this is only April 2nd, which tells you that it's going to be a long time. And this is going to be the new norm for us right now. So more people are going to be unable to work. Over time, restaurants, bars, gyms, retailers, sadly, a lot will be shutting their doors and not reopening anymore. And this is going to be, you know, their future. The economic downturn means that there's going to be less work for people. So right now it's a huge unknown because everything is changing so quickly. I mean, I was preparing for this. I've got pages upon pages of information that keeps coming in and changing because the governments are trying to figure things out. So this is a big unknown for everyone. You wanted to know what the pros and cons were for upcoming graduates. The cons are companies are closing their doors or downsizing. Right now, there are no jobs, there are no internships. The pros are make full use of your education. Learn, better yourself. This is an opportunity for you to grow as a person and for you to grow as your future job and your future as a whole. And this gives you the opportunity to distinguish yourself from others, right? Get a master's degree. I think one of the key things right now is for students in Canada, student loans, payments are paused from March 30th until September 30th with no accrual of interest. And that's important. This is going to help you out and help you get your education because there is no accrual of interest, which is huge because all the other stuff that we're going to talk about later about deferring, that is going to be interest upon interest. Now, I think it's important to note, I just want to let everybody know here, I am not going to be giving out investment advice. This is not what I'm here to do, right? I know some people were, some of the questions that came in, there was investment advice questions. That's not what I'm here to do. And there are a few questions came in about market timing as well. I'm going to talk about that a little bit later, but nobody knows. A lot of the people that are experts and are portfolio managers don't know market timing, because if you do market timing, you've got to know two things. You've got to know when to get in and when to get out. And as human beings, we're not good at that. Now, regarding investing in stocks, that's purely on an individual basis. And the reason why I'm not going to talk about investment, investing in stocks or anything else right now, because every individual is different. Everyone's got a different risk tolerance. Everyone's got a different amount of debt or accumulated assets, a different timeline, a different age group. So that's not going to happen here. And I just want to put that on the table right now so that no one's disappointed going forward.
We've also heard that the Canadian government said you can defer paying your bills, and we were wondering if this was a good idea and how student loans exactly play into this.
Okay, so deferral is an individual choice, right? Everyone is different. Some people are working, some people are not working. If you're having a hard time paying your bills right now, whether it's your credit card, whether it's your mortgage, whether it's your line of credit, any bills that you have, you actually have the option to defer. However, deferral does not mean you can be delinquent. You still have to pay. And if you are deferring, you are going to be paying interest upon interest. So it might even cost you a little bit more, but the government and everyone else involved is trying to kind of help you out a little bit so that you're not jammed with paying a whole bunch of bills right now, especially because most of the world is at home, self-isolating, social distancing, and a lot of people aren't getting paid. Now, even though I just want to talk about this again, even though banks and credit cards are allowing you to defer, again, you still have to pay interest upon interest. So this is the time to rely on your emergency funds. Do you have emergency funds? Because if you have been doing proper financial planning for yourself, you will have been putting away some funds, which is, 10%, 5%, a dollar here, a dollar there, letting it accumulate for a crisis like now. Now, if you don't have emergency funds, this is not the time to run to the bank and pull all your cash out. A lot of retailers out there, a lot of the pharmacies or whoever's out there that's open right now, they're not taking cash. Cash may be used for your neighbor who runs out and runs an errand for you, or if your parents need something, your parents may need some cash because they're elderly and they're not going out right now, because in Canada, specifically in Toronto, if you're 70 plus, you're not allowed to leave your home. So it's up to the younger generation and people that are running around doing errands for themselves. They're the ones that are going out and buying stuff for the older generation. So that's where cash kind of comes into play right now. The bottom line is, if you can pay your bills, pay them. Don't play around with this. This is not the opportunity to say, oh, I don't have to pay my bills, because you really do have to pay your bills. You cannot be delinquent. This is not an excuse to say, I'm going to decide not to pay my bills for the month and I'm going to do it next month. If you cannot pay your bills, do the deferral. If you can pay them, pay them. I can tell you, last week, the city of Toronto took the taxes out of my bank account as the regular monthly tax payment. So they are actually out there taking money out of your bank account if it's there. I wanted to also say that this week, the US government told everybody that if you are renting and you cannot pay your rent, the United States said that they cannot evict you for 120 days. So that gives you a little bit of time to gather some money, see when the money starts coming in from the government, you can use it to start paying your rent. The bottom line is, you need to speak to your lender and you need to figure out what you can do. Go to the bank, talk to the bank, talk to your landlord, talk to your employer. There's so many people that you need to talk to. And since everybody's at home right now, self-isolating, this is the time for you to work for you, for yourself, to make all this work for you, so that once we're out of this, you will be in a happier place. So if you go to the bank and you talk to your lender about your credit cards, about whatever it is that has to be done, you can, whoever you speak to at the bank or the lender or your landlord, write notes. Take some notes down, names, times, buzzwords. Email them to yourself, because when you email them to yourself, there's a specific timeline as well. So you've got that. You don't have to search for the notes. You don't have to worry about not being able to read your handwriting. The other thing too is, I'm going to get into this a little bit deeper later, but always follow up with the lender. And just remember, this is your job and not theirs, because they, quite frankly, they don't care. You need to care about you and your finances. The other thing too is, this week, the Canadian government has asked the banks to lower interest on the credit cards too. So we'll see whether that actually, steps up or not. Let's talk about credit ratings. Now, you have to make sure, as I said, that you are deferring and you are not delinquent. This is important. What you need to do is talk to your bank or source that you are paying and talk to them about deferring a payment, and write down all the details, just as I said, and make sure that you have all this information backed up. And I am reading notes because there's so much information here. I want to make sure that I cover everything and I don't wake up tomorrow morning and think, oh my gosh, I wish that I'd talked about this. So excuse all the notes. The bottom line is, everything is changing so quickly and the governments are coming up with so much information that it's really hard to keep track of everything. Now, remember, the onus is always, if you're looking at credit ratings, the onus is on the lenders to ensure that the borrower's credit scores don't make a hit during these challenging times. So a deferred payment can show up as a late payment. And that's not what you want. In Canada, we have Equifax and TransUnion, but what you need to do is contact both of those companies and speak to them if you can get them on the phone. It's a very busy time right now for everyone. However, keep dialing, keep redialing, email, do whatever chats you can, and talk to them and see if you defer any payment, whether it will hit your credit score. Because that's important to know. Don't assume that it won't be affected, because last week people were talking and saying it shouldn't affect anything, it should be fine, don't worry about it. But this week, different information is coming out. And basically they're saying that much of the data is generated automatically. And computer systems haven't been adjusted to reflect the general availability of deferred payment or this whole COVID-19 crisis. So it's up to you, yet again, to make sure that you have the proper information and you don't get dinged on this, because there's a lot of people that are struggling right now. There's a lot of people that have been living paycheck to paycheck and don't have the money to pay rent, put food on their table, buy medical supplies. This is a huge crisis for a lot of people. So make sure that you take diligent note, take care of yourself right now, because you need to be able to get out of this fairly unscathed. And the thing is too, when you're talking to a customer service rep, a lot of times they'll just say something to you, but it doesn't follow through. I mean, I can tell you that, I redid the alarm company here at home. We redid the whole alarm system. I called them to cancel them because they were charging a lot of money. And I called to cancel them because I had an old alarm system that was antiquated. Called them up, said that I was going to cancel on them. And they said, no, we want to have you. You've been our client for 20 years. So they came in, they gave us a brand new top of the line security system. I'm paying half of what I was paying before. Everything had changed, yet they're still charging me the original price on my credit card. So I checked my credit card this time. The rep did say to us, oh, no, don't worry, everything is fine, but you need to follow up. So we did follow up. They did change the price, but the onus is on me. And actually, that's a really good idea. I don't know how many of you people, we're going to talk about credit cards another time, but how many of you, when you get your credit card statement, look through the whole list of what you purchased? Because I can tell you a lot of people look at what their credit card statement says, and if it's $1,000, you just go and you pay it. But I want everyone to be diligent right now. I want you to take really, really good care of your finances. When a credit card statement comes in, look at every item and see whether you actually bought it and whether it's actually the price that you were supposed to pay for it. Because a lot of times we have reoccurring payments on our credit card and we kind of forget about it. Whether it's the newspaper or your alarm company or doesn't matter who it is, your pet insurance or whatever, sometimes these companies can mix up and end up charging you twice or three times. I know I'm digressing here, but that's another thing that you should be looking at. Protect yourself. Ask your bank to stop any automatic payments that you have. A lot of us to, make our lives easier and not forget about paying. I've got my property taxes that come out on a monthly basis. I have some other things that come out on a monthly basis automatically from my bank account. But if you're at home and you're not getting paid and you don't have money going into your bank account, make sure that you go to the bank and you stop all those automatic payments, because the last thing you want is an NSF charge, because now you're going to be paying for something that you still can't afford to pay. So take care of yourself right now. These are really important and fragile times. And quite frankly, if you go to your bank and you talk to them, it'll give you more control over the money that you have. So once again, call Equifax, TransUnion, or whoever they are in Macedonia, in the United States, in Australia, or wherever you are calling from. Get in touch with those credit agencies and talk to them to make sure that you're not going to get pinged going forward. And it's very important to keep your credit score in good standing. This is not the time to take advantage of deferring payments. This is a time for you to become stronger and more diligent with your finances. If you have a landlord, go to your landlord and say, you know what? I can't afford to pay you full month's rent. Can I do 50% right now and 50% going forward? Go to the bank and say, my credit card interest payments are, let's pretend they're 20%. Can we negotiate something lower? This crisis, everyone is involved in this crisis. It doesn't matter how much money you make, how much money you have. Everyone is involved because it's more of a health crisis and a personal finance crisis than a market crisis. So every place that you have to go and pay your bills, you make sure that you go and you speak to them to renegotiate. I was talking to someone yesterday who owns a few apartment buildings, and he said, only a handful of people actually called him and said, listen, I can't pay my rent. Can I do half now and half next month, and I'll catch up, I promise. This is the time where you need to go and speak for yourself and advocate for yourself. I was looking at a friend of mine, Kelly Keene, was doing a live chat today on Twitter. And one of the questions came up and it said, my income is reduced. Which bills should I prioritize? Which is a really good question. So what do you prioritize? Food, shelter, medication, if you have limited cash. But if you can't pay off all your debt, this is the time to pay the minimum on whatever debt that you have. Don't worry about your debt if you can't afford to buy food, because food and functioning and keeping yourself healthy and safe is a priority right now. So yeah, contact everybody that you need to pay. If you cannot pay your bills, if you can pay your bills, this is a time for you to start saving. But if you are in dire straits and you cannot pay your bills, you've got to talk to everybody and get everyone on board and make sure that they're there to help you out. And I think everybody is. I can tell you, landlords want to get some sort of money back. They don't want you not to pay them. Everybody wants to get some sort of money. And also your employer. There's somebody to speak with as well, because they want to keep their doors open. They want to keep their business going. They don't want to see their business shut down. And if you are already an employee that is there and you are trained and you've been an employee for a really long time, they're going to want you back because they don't have to retrain you. So the bottom line is, a lot of times your employer will be your friend at this particular time when it comes to the crisis. I want to talk about what the Canadian federal government has enacted, and there's several measures aimed at mitigating this whole financial crisis due to COVID-19. Tax filing deadlines have been changed. So tax filing for Canadians right now is June 1st. But for trusts with a taxation year ending on December 31st, the filing deadline is now May 1st. So individuals and businesses that owe taxes can defer their payments until September. And this is important because that'll keep some cash flow in smaller businesses to help them stay afloat during this time. GST credits. In Canada, we have the GST, the goods and services tax. Those eligible for GST credits will receive a one-time special payment of about $400 for singles and $600 for couples. There's also child benefits, RRIFs, Registered Retirement Income Fund. Mostly in Canada, they tell you to put money away into your RRSP, which is your Registered Retirement Savings Plan. So it's a tax deferral. You put money in there, and you can put money into the RRSP until you are 71. When you turn 71, you've got to change that RRSP to a RRIF, which is a Registered Retirement Income Fund. And at that time, you need to take money out. So the government gives you a minimum amount of money that you can take out of your RRIF if you're 71 and older. What they did this time was they have reduced the minimum by 25% so that seniors won't get impacted as much with their investments, and they can the RIF has dropped by 25% so that they don't have to cash out of their mutual funds, ETFs, or their stocks and bonds. So this is a good thing for seniors. There's another thing called the Canada Emergency Response Benefit. The applications are opening on April the 6th, which is coming up. A few things that are really important to figure out with this. You need to be 15 years of age or older, and you need to make at least $5,000 or more last year. So what happens is, this is a taxable benefit. One of the people who is online today asked this question, does the Canada Emergency Response Benefit need to be paid back in full, or will it be included in your 2020 income? It is a taxable benefit, which means they will provide you $2,000 a month for up to 4 months for workers who lose income as a result of the pandemic due to job loss. There is a chart that came out on the Canadian government's website, and I'm going to read it to you. And if you have a pen, write it down, because if you are going to be using the Canada Emergency Response Benefit, this is important for you to know, because they have specific dates for the months that you were born. If you were born in the month of January, February, March, you should apply on Mondays, and your best day to apply is April 6th. If you were born April, May, or June, the best day to apply is Tuesdays, and that's on April the 7th. If you were born July, August, or September, to apply for your Canada Emergency Response Benefit on Wednesdays, and that begins on April the 8th. If you were born October, November, or December, apply on Thursdays, and your best day to apply is April the 9th. And these are all important dates. The best thing to do is, if you have questions, go to the Canadian government website. It has so much information, and that's why I'm reading so much. It's got a lot of information, a lot of questions and answers, and I'm sure that they will be there to answer. They'll have the answers for you with whatever your questions are. Again, student loans. Payments are paused from March to September 30th with no accrual of interest. And small businesses, they've got this, just yesterday they announced this thing for small businesses, so please go on the website and figure that out. I know it was long-winded, I'm sorry.
It's all right. So we were wondering, many countries are introducing those wage subsidies for now, as you were saying. What do you recommend people do with the money that they're receiving?
Okay. Well, use the money to pay off your debt. Use the money to pay off your rent. Buy food. Use the money for necessities. Use the money to help you survive and help you stay safe and healthy during this pandemic. Do not use this money to go and buy yourself a pair of designer shoes or a designer purse or you know, down payment on a new car that you've always wanted. That's not what this money is for. This money is for survival, and use it to survive. If you can live frugally, save it. Save as much of it as you can, because it'll help you get through this hump. Use the money to help you get out of the crisis.
We also kind of had a question regarding what we termed, I guess, as like the 3 S's, which is sale, spam, and scam that's happening right now. So how should people respond to this during social isolation, where it seems to be a little more prevalent? And specifically, I know you mentioned before romance scams.
Yes. Okay, so we're all at home, self-isolating. People that are lucky are at home with a spouse or a family or a pet. But there's so many people out there that are alone. I was talking to a girlfriend of mine, and she said, you know, I'm having a hard time with this self-isolation. I'm working nonstop from home, and I may go out for a walk. I'm by myself, and then I come home. And I mean, we're human. We crave. I mean, how tactical are we, right? When we see our parents or our friends, what do? We hug them. We kiss them. How are you? I mean, we're so huggy, and we're all kissy and tactile. And so we're at home right now, we get lonely. So online fraud is alive and kicking right now. And all the people that are at home feeling lonely are targets, right? There are so many COVID-19 oils out there. If you buy this oil, it'll save you. I saw one that I tweeted about that there's this new vaccine, just give me $1,000. There's no vaccine. Yet people out there are hoping and hopeful that there's something that'll help them. A friend of mine sent me an email. There's cleaning or heating companies offering duct cleaning services to protect you from COVID-19. There's special air filters. Hydroelectric power companies threatening to disconnect power for non-payment. That's not going to happen. They can't do that. There's public health agencies of Canada giving false results. A lot of the government websites are being mirrored for spam, and people are thinking that the government is actually saying certain things, but they're not. And one of the key things that I do, I did a show on fraud, and the key is always look at who the email came from. If you look at that email, it's typically not from who it says it is from. I've been getting so many spams right now from Amazon. I've been tweeting about it actually, and I've taken full shots and tweeted about it, and Amazon got in touch with me and said, send us all of the fraud and spam and phishing emails that you get. Companies are being diligent, but we're at home, we're alone, we're starting to get inundated with things. And I think we're getting a lot more spam and fraudulent types of emails than we are getting regular types of emails. There's also door-to-door salespeople that even though we've been told to stop self-distancing, these people are coming and ringing your doorbell. They want to push themselves into your home to rob you. Do not let anyone into your house. You don't know these people. You don't know who they are. Don't even open the door. We're all self-distancing right now. Don't look at anybody. Don't talk to anybody, and stay 6 feet away from them. Because those people actually want to do fake COVID-19 tests in your home. So don't let them in. Don't open your door. Romance scams. I mean, who doesn't want to be in love, right? We all want to be in love. Everybody wants to be, everybody wants to have that someone that makes their heart feel great, makes them feel great. But right now, stay away from online, stay away from meeting somebody new on Twitter or on any of those other sites. I mean, all you have to do is watch 90 Day Fiancé and see poor Cesar, who, gave that woman $40,000 of his own hard money. I mean, I wanted to cry when I watched that. We all want to be loved, and we all fall for it. I mean, it's funny, I was talking to my chairman and I said, well, yeah, I mean, romance scams are alive and well. And he said, well, I don't understand it. And I said, well, you look at the old school way of writing a beautiful letter in a note, and then you run home from work, well, not anymore, but you run to your computer and you think, oh my gosh, I just can't wait to get that email from that person. And you get the email and they say how much they love you and they say how much they care about you. But oh my gosh, I'm working at an oil field in Ethiopia or somewhere, and I need $3,000 to come and see you. It happens, and so many people fall for it, and then they're embarrassed. And I think one of the biggest thing about romance scams is that people are embarrassed to go to the police and report it. And that's a shame. I know that there was, when I did the show on romance scams, there was a woman who was alone because her husband had passed away, and she didn't really know how to deal with her finances, and the home was in her name. And she met this guy online because her friend said, this is exactly what you need to do. You don't need to be alone. You can meet this man. And she ended up, I think, sending him $500,000. The problem is when you start sending these people money, you typically can't afford it. She actually mortgaged her home to do this. And these guys are in all different jurisdictions, whether they're male or female, they're all over the world. So, Toronto police or the RCMP or the FBI or whoever it is in Australia, they can't cross the jurisdictions to get your money back. So once you start sending money to somebody that you think that you're in love with that you've never met, you're never going to get that money back. So you really have to take care of yourself, because this is a tough time. This is an emotional time, and a lot of people are feeling lonely, and a lot of people are at home alone. The other thing too is, We are getting inundated with major retail emails. I can't count the amount of emails I get per day. 50% off, $50, $100. One time only 55% off of the 75% off. The bottom line is we're at home and it's really easy to shop online. Do not do boredom shopping, and do not look at the designer purse and say, I'm so depressed, but if I buy this, I will be so, so, so happy. I'll deal with the debt later. No, do not do that. Focus right now. Focus on your finances now and paying whatever bills you need to pay, because this is an important time in your life. You can sit there and buy that piece online at another time, but right now you need to focus on food, shelter, paying your bills, and hopefully, keeping your job in the long run. So avoid panic spending. Don't buy something because you're depressed. One of the other things too is a lot of people are buying their groceries online and having them delivered to their home. But you have to remember that when you're buying those groceries online, the prices have been hiked up as well. So you're paying a premium for that. So if you can, once a week, go to the grocery store, quickly buy what you need to do and bring it back home. You're not paying a premium and you're not paying a delivery charge either. So that's important. And the other thing too is, there's a big campaign going on right now, buying local and keeping your community going. We're all at home. All of our local nail salons, hair salons, bars, they're all closed because they're non-essential. And they're all small business owners, single moms, single parents, single dads, whatever. This is their livelihood. There's a campaign right now that if you can afford it, buy a gift certificate and help out that company, so that when life goes back to normal, whatever normal will be in a few months or a year, you can use the gift certificate to buy whatever service it is that you need. But right now, those gift certificates will give the local community, that local store, cash. Today, I went in and bought a $100 gift certificate from the company that made our wedding cake. And, I wrote her a little note and said, you did such a great job. I've been thinking about you. For $100, they give you a $125 gift certificate. And the email that I got back from this small business owner was so heartfelt. She was excited. She couldn't thank me enough. Small businesses need some cash flow to keep them going. So if you can afford it, buy a gift certificate, use it as a gift for somebody later, use it for yourself, for your parents, whatever, because we all need to help each other out right now and keep the economy going, even though it's stopped. Let me see. Oh, the other thing too is there's 4 signs of investment fraud, and these are important. Because right now you're going to get a lot of people saying, well, the markets are in turmoil, they're volatile, up and down, it's crazy. If somebody promises you high returns with little or no risk, do not invest. If it's a hot tip or an insider, do not invest. If they pressure you to invest, do not invest. And if the seller is not registered with whatever the securities commission is, or whatever financial planning or investment advisor, like in Canada it's Financial Planning Council or IROC or the Ontario Securities Commission, whatever the jurisdiction is where you live, if somebody's trying to sell you stocks and bonds and they're not registered, do not buy it. Nothing is guaranteed. Nobody can guarantee you returns, and promises of a high return with little risk, it doesn't happen. It's non-existent. Okay.
Great. And once we emerge from this situation, what do you see changing in terms of spending and savings habits with all of these prioritizations that we have to make, specifically for people 30 and under?
Okay. So not going out and saving your money, if you're still working, will help you from living paycheck to paycheck. And the bottom line is, if you are living paycheck to paycheck, stop. going forward, you're going to need to put some parameters in place so that you have an emergency fund for a situation like this, so that you have some money for your savings, for your retirement, and so that you have some money to actually go on vacation and enjoy your life and not just living a frugal and disciplined life. This is a great time to frame your financial future. Homebodies, cooking, learn to cook. How many people out there don't know how to cook? This is a great opportunity, especially if you're at home with your partner. Cook with your partner. If you don't know, I've been doing Zoom chats with my friends from all over the place. It's been cocktail hour nonstop now, right? So we open up a bottle of wine. You've got people from the Bahamas, people from the United States, people from all over the place. You do a 40-minute, half-hour Zoom chat, and it doesn't cost you any money other than the bottle of wine that you had at home. Try to be frugal. Emergency funds, again, I keep talking about emergency funds, and they're not there to use as, a regular wallet. If your car breaks down, you use an emergency fund. God forbid if somebody passes away, you've got the emergency fund. A crisis like this, an emergency fund. And if you don't have one, you have to start thinking about saving for one. Save your money, forget that it's there until you're faced with an emergency. The thing too is budgeting. Some people love budgets and some people hate them. And it's the same as a diet. You don't go on a diet, it's a lifestyle. And I think budgeting is the same thing. Budgeting and diets are the same. Make it a lifestyle, right? Creditcanada.com is really good at this. Creditcanada.com, write that down. It doesn't matter where you live, whether it's in the United States, Australia, Macedonia, Switzerland, wherever you're calling from. Creditcanada.com has some incredible computers. They've got calculators, they've got savings calculators, they've got retirement calculators, budget calculators, spending calculators, they've got everything. And they're a really good organization that if you are in debt, they will actually help you get out of debt, and it's free. They don't take a percentage of what your debt is. They don't take any money from you. It's free. So they have 5 steps to create a monthly budget, and it's amazing. Put it in writing, because if it's in writing, you can look at it and remind yourself of what you need. Track your spending, gum, filling up the car, taking the metro, buying your lunch, buying your coffee. Track all that spending so you know exactly where your money goes every month. Right now, everyone's self-isolating, so it's not going to work. However, if you are buying something at the store or buying something online, track it. Start now, because you know what? It takes 3 weeks to learn a habit, and within 21 days, it'll become the norm for you to do. And be realistic. Be realistic of what you want with your budget. How much do you want to spend? How much do you want to save? How much do you earn, right? Don't inflate what you earn. What you earn is fact. It's factual. And then set your budget priorities. What's the purpose of your budgeting? Is it for savings? Is it for your retirement? Is it for your emergency fund? Is it for a trip? Is it what is it for? Use that for yourself. And don't forget to pay yourself a trip. Whatever it is, the designer bag that you've been dying for, if you start saving money and putting it aside for you after this crisis, it's okay to spend some money on yourself. But it takes discipline, and you need to live a frugal life.
We also had a question about how would you draw a parallel or compare the personal finance knowledge requirements growing up compared to today?
Okay, so we all have come from humble beginnings, right? I always laugh and I always call myself a peasant. My mom and dad came from farms. My mom came from, rural Majutiste, just 7 kilometers outside of Prilep. I was raised that way. I was raised from my mom, who was raised in the village, to live a frugal and disciplined life. This now more than ever tells us that all that extravagance means nothing. What does extravagance mean, or the designer clothing that you have mean, when you're sitting at home self-isolating? You can't go anywhere, you can't do anything, right? Other than enjoy your home and enjoy your surroundings and the people that you're with. My parents came to Canada in 1962. They barely knew each other, were not married that long. They arrived here with $125 in a suitcase between the two of them. They didn't speak the language. They didn't have family here. They didn't have friends. They had no one to support them, but they had three goals. Goal number one was to find a job and a place to live was goal number two. Actually, maybe find a place to live and then find a job. Goal number three, though, was to pay back their debt. And their debt was, when they were in a displaced persons camp in Germany, there was a church in Chicago that was lending people money from Europe to lend them the money to get on the ship to arrive into Canada. So goal number three for them was to pay off their debt. When you think of financial literacy and living a disciplined and frugal life, think of letters in the alphabet, A to G, right? A, accountability. Be accountable to yourself. If you cheat, you are cheating on yourself. Meaning, if you're living paycheck to paycheck, you're cheating yourself because you need to have the emergency funds, a little bit of savings, or some savings for retirement. Budgeting. If you are struggling to make ends meet, create a budget and follow it because budgets work. Communication. Communicate with your loved ones, your friends, that you're struggling and you need help. And that has a lot to do with the negativity in our minds. A lot of times when we're at home and we're alone, we start doing that negativity, that, that self, that negative thinking that brings you down. And it's like, it actually puts you into a depression. When you're starting to feel like that, talk to somebody. Talk to a friend, talk to your spouse, talk to somebody to say, listen, I've got these negative feelings in my head. I got to get rid of them because once I get past that hump, I'll be able to be good to myself and I'll be useful for myself as well. And discipline, make a plan and stick to it, right? If you can't go out with your friends, tell your friends you can't go out with them. Not now, but going forward. Because honestly, who cares? No one's going to think, well, Yana or Amelia couldn't come out tonight. Like, who cares? You guys couldn't come out tonight. We'll see each other next week, right? E is for education. Educate yourself. Financial literacy, things like this webinar, educate yourself. Always learn. Always learn as much as you can. F is live a frugal life. I mean, look at our humble beginnings. Look at where we all came from. None of us came from money. So let's learn to live that way. And goals, create your own goals. What were my parents' goals, right? Find a place to live, find a job, and pay off their debt. And the other thing too is, when you have debt, you are full of stress and anxiety. So you can't live life like that, especially now through this crisis. You need to keep your health. You need to stay safe. You need to take your vitamins. You need to take care of yourself, right? So even if you're at home, don't impulse buy. Because when you impulse buy, you're living in denial. In November, I started the $5 a day savings for Financial Literacy Month, especially for people who live paycheck to paycheck. If you can save $5 a day, you would have saved $150, $155 a month. That's great. That is your savings for your retirement that you can invest in, right? That's your emergency fund. If you can't pay off your credit card more often, then pay much more than the minimum. Never just pay the minimum. And don't get sucked into FOMO, the fear of missing out, and YOLO, you only live once, because you hear that often and over again. And quite frankly, yes, we are here. FOMO and YOLO, it doesn't matter. Live a disciplined and frugal life. And the bottom line is cash is king. If you can't afford it, just don't buy it. Say no. Pay yourself first. Buy on sale and save. And basically everything that I've said here doesn't just resonate with you as a personal individual. You can put that in place for your business, your small business, because the bottom line is when you have a lot of debt, you don't own yourself anymore. The banks and the creditors own you. So focus on your long-term investing with a view towards your retirement. The more you can reduce costs, the longer you can make your savings last. And ladies, it's okay to wear the same dress twice and 10 times. I have no problem with re-wearing the same outfit.
All right, thank you. In that case, we're going to get to our last question of today. Although this question stems a little bit off topic from financial literacy, what do you think is the significance of reaching out, at least virtually, to others in order to recover from this crisis mentality?
You know, I have a mug here and it says love. And the Beatles were right. All you need is love and kindness. We need to be there for each other. Whether, you know what, we need to start really liking each other and being there for each other. Kindness is free, and it's so easy to call up a friend and say, hey, are you okay? What's going on? Because a lot of people, as I had said earlier, social distancing is isolating. And people are scared because this is very different. We've never been through this before. We've been through the 1987 stock market crash, 2000.com. We had the financial crisis in 2008. But this is a health crisis. This is people dying crisis. This is people that are 70 and over need to stay home. This is, you can't go see your parents, right? How many of us have not seen their parents? I talk to my mother on the phone every day, and yet now I see her on Skype. You know, they came back from Florida, they're self-isolating. Now you can't have, elderly that are 70 plus go out. I don't want to go see her. God forbid I have the silent virus. So what do we need to do? We need to support each other. We need to reestablish our relationships. We need to communicate with our family and friends that we're afraid or we're not afraid. We are all vulnerable. We're isolated. This is the time to reach out to everybody. As I said earlier, Zoom wine chat. I mean, I've got a bourbon chat tomorrow at 5 o'clock with a girlfriend, right? Do this. Catch up with your friends. It's great to see faces, right? Because when you're on the phone or you're texting somebody, you don't actually see their face. You don't see their smile or their eyes. And you know what? We really need that because that is what's touchy-feely for us, right? And it's harder for the older generation right now. They must really be afraid. Reach out to them. See if they need to go shopping for them. Drop things off. We have neighbors that live 5 doors down, and we're all self-isolating. One of our neighbors, he turned 75. So we walked over with a glass of champagne and sang happy birthday to him with the glass of champagne to toast him from the sidewalk. You know, do some stuff where you don't have to go into somebody. You don't have to be close to them, but be there for other people. But I think the bottom line is you have to take care of yourself. Our mental health is really important. And especially when you're here, you're not going out anywhere, work out. I mean, I can't tell you how many people I've talked to that have said, oh my God, I've gained so much weight. This COVID-19 weight gain, whether it's 7 pounds or 9 pounds or whatever. I'm still working out at F45 in Yorkville, but I'm doing virtual workouts where the trainer is there watching you. This is the time to reach out and do stuff for yourself, and don't just eat comfort food because that'll catch up to you. And you want to stay safe and you want to stay healthy. Take your vitamins and hang in there because this is going to pass.
So firstly, we just wanted to thank you, Liz. We greatly appreciate you actually taking your time to be here with us all. We also wanted to thank you for your further contributions to the UMD Advisory Council and the Macedonian Film Festival Board of Directors. Additionally, we want to thank all of Generation M and UMD's volunteers for helping facilitate this event and make it possible. We are planning several more in the coming weeks, so please stay connected with the social media accounts, whether it be on Facebook or Twitter and Macedonia, and make sure to follow Liz on Twitter as well at Inalmovsky. I truly feel like we all learned at least something new today that can help us adapt to these changing times.
I just wanted to say thank you again to everyone for coming, and especially you, Liz. And just before you go, I wanted to announce that UMD and its Young Leaders Program, Generation M, are about to launch our Macedonian Mentorship Program. So it's an opportunity for Macedonian youth to talk to Macedonian professionals, to learn from them and hear about experiences in their field of choice and on a more personal level. More information will be given about this soon, and just keep an eye out on our social media and emails. And if you're interested, don't hesitate to reach out to any of us or fill out the application as soon as it comes out.
Can I just add too, Amelia and Yana, you two have done an incredible job. You know, I spoke to you in preparation for this chat. You guys were on point. You worked really hard to make this happen. And I really appreciate the fact that you chose me to help you do this. The other thing too is, you know, that whole mentorship program that you're doing, people at home are self-isolating. There's a lot of professionals that are at home right now. I think everybody who is a professional should reach out to a university student or have a university student reach out to someone who's a professional and use this time wisely and help mentor them. This is a great time right now where everybody's at home. You know, take an hour out of your week and help a younger student, help our generation grow, especially during this hard time.
Thank you so much. And everyone, thanks again. We'll hope to see you soon in another event.
Take care, everyone. Stay safe and
Bye,
healthy.
everyone.